Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to step back in time to 1992. It was a moment of incredible transformation in South Africa, and we're going to explore the dream of building a brand new legal system from the ashes of apartheid, all through the eyes of an article written right in the thick of it. Okay, so let's just dive right in. The author of the piece, Charles Dlamini, kicks things off with this amazing quote from Dickens. And really, it perfectly captures the feeling in South Africa in 1992. You had the society caught between two worlds, a really painful, unjust past, and a future that was full of hope, but also, completely uncertain. It was a time of huge friction and massive possibility. So, to really get what they were dreaming of with this new South Africa, we first have to understand the brutal reality of the old one. The Dlamini saw this whole national project as a kind of journey, a march out of the bondage of apartheid and towards a promised land. A place with non-racial democracy, real equality, and peace. You see, this wasn't just about changing a few laws. This was about trying to change the very soul of a country. You have to understand, the old legal order wasn't just a little bit flawed. No, it was meticulously designed from the ground up, specifically to enforce separation and inequality. So let's look at how this was baked right into the court system itself. The whole thing was split in two. On one side, you had the Supreme Court, which was for whites and used Roman Dutch law. But on the other side, you had these so-called special courts for blacks. They were supposed to apply customary law, but in reality, everyone knew they delivered a lower quality of justice. It was separate and unequal by design. And this was the real weapon in their arsenal, the repugnancy clause. It sounds complicated, but it's simple. It gave the state the power to just throw out any part of African customary law that it decided was repugnant. This was basically a tool to impose white, Western values and completely undermine authentic African legal traditions. And this had absolutely devastating real-world consequences. Take marriage. Because the Supreme Court saw polygamy as against its public policy, it just flat out refused to recognize customary marriages as legally valid. I mean, think about that. This left millions of black families in a state of legal limbo. Their marriages, their families, their most basic bonds just weren't recognized by the highest court in the land. So the bottom line is, these special courts, they were a failure on almost every level. They were supposed to be simple and cheap and easy to access, but the reality was that the rules were way too complicated, the costs were often too high, and the officials running them had basically no proper training. They became a symbol of a system that just did not work for the people it was supposed to serve. And this question really gets to the absolute heart of the matter. What happens when the vast majority of people in a country don't see the law as a protector, but as an enemy, as something foreign and hostile? Well, you get a massive crisis of legitimacy. The whole system just starts to rot from the inside out. Okay, so with the old system in a state of crisis, how do you even begin to build something new? The vision was for something totally different, a future built not on division, but on a shared foundation of rights for everybody. And what's just staggering when you look at this timeline is how fast everything happened. I mean, you have decades of this deeply entrenched system, and then suddenly, in just a few short years, it all begins to unravel. And that brings us to this pivotal moment in 1992, where literally everything was on the table. Now, one thing pretty much everyone could agree on was this. The heart of the new South Africa had to be a powerful constitution with a Bill of Rights. That part was non-negotiable. But, as always, the devil was in the details. And this is where the big fight really was. The ANC argued that, look, after apartheid, rights aren't meaningful unless they include things like housing, education, and healthcare. But the Law Commission was worried. They argued that those kinds of economic rights aren't justiciable. Basically, how can a judge order a government to build a house? It's a huge philosophical question, right? Should a constitution just protect you from harm, or should it also guarantee you the things you need to live a dignified life? But okay, you can write a beautiful document. Trying to make it a reality in a society that's still so fractured, violent, and unequal, well, that's a whole different ballgame. And Dlamini saw these huge, huge roadblocks ahead. I mean, think about it. How do you build a culture that respects rights when there's still so much political violence? How do you get people to trust the system when there are rumors of a third force stirring up trouble? How do you overcome generations of prejudice? A piece of paper alone couldn't fix all that. And on top of all those big political questions, there was the simple practical problem of justice itself. For the law to feel real, people have to understand it. They have to be able to afford it, and they have to see themselves reflected in it. Back then, the law was in a foreign language. Going to court was way too expensive, and there were no black judges. For most people, justice was just completely out of reach. So, when you're facing a mountain of problems like this, what's the hope? What can one document, one constitution, actually do? Well, the dream here wasn't just to copy-paste a legal system from somewhere else. No, the vision was to create something brand new, something uniquely South African. A system that would blend the best parts of Roman Dutch, English, and, this is the crucial part, African legal traditions, to finally treat that African component with respect, not nonchalance. A law that all South Africans could finally call their own. And this quote, right here, really gets to the deepest hope. The idea was that a constitution could be more than just a rule book for politicians. It could be a teaching tool, a document that, if you taught it in schools, if people talked about it in their communities, could actually help shape a new, shared national identity built on common values. And so we're left with this huge, powerful question from back in 1992. Can a piece of paper, a legal text, actually heal the deep wounds of a divided country? Can a constitution give a nation a new heart, a new soul? That was the incredible, audacious dream and the immense challenge of building a new South Africa.